Right. So for each team, you need to start exploring the what we call the gray literature. Okay. So what you can do is to click on the gray literature, explore the gray literature using Google here. So you will be able to access the page on exploring the gray literature. So what is gray literature? But you can read a little bit of background here, but basically the gray literature refers to the documents that are not controlled by the commercial publishing organizations, such as government documents, working papers, or technical reports and everything. Because if you just search Google, you just use Google to search, most likely you will end up with some newspaper articles, magazine articles, or some web pages of the companies. But if you do a Google site specific search, then you can get the documents from the government or maybe some academic literature as well. Okay, so Ewan, does that make sense to you? Okay, so yeah, so explore the gray literature using Google. That's one thing we learned today. What I'm going to do is I will go through each team right now, and just to give you a little bit tips in terms of what documents you should look at. So let's begin with, since Ewan was asking me, let's begin with I'm Smart. Okay, so for I'm Smart, one thing you need to know about I'm Smart is that this is a system developed by OGCIO. Okay. So OGCIO is the chief of the government chief information officer. So if you just search for I am smart and then OGCIO, you will be able to find some basic information like a page about that project. Okay, so this is kind of the basic information about I am smart. Now, one important strategy for any project team to work on your research is to identify a specific government project or program, such as I'm Smart, right? So I'm Smart is a specific program launched by the Hong Kong government, just like emergency alert system. So if you can identify such a program, such a project, then you will have a well-defined focus. Now for tree management, nobody's working on tree management now, but tree management is not really a specific project, right? So if you go to tree management, Hong Kong, you can see a whole website. There's like a whole screening. I think it's called greening or something. That's like a whole website. Yeah. So that's not really a specific project. So if you're working on tree management, then you have to further narrow the scope of your work. Now, I am Smart is a specific project. So you should read through it. But one thing you have to remember about I'm Smart is that the government is trying to promote it so more other departments or bureaus of the government can start using it, right? So obviously one thing you should do when you are working on a project like this is to install I'm Smart yourself, right? And then you can sign it up so you can know more about the project. And I can refer you to some of the letters that we published on this project before, so you can take a look. Hold on just 1 second. Yeah, so this is a database. Now this is a very important database, which is the SAMP letters, right? So if you go to this database, this is a collection of letters published by students. Okay. Now if you go to this database, you can see that we already published some letters on I'm Smart. So I can probably I can give you that info a little bit later. Another way to look at this is to go to the palette. And because palette would be another place where you can find the previously published letters by the teams. And again, I Am Smart is one of them. You know, I'm Smart is one of the project that that we look at. For example, S80. So Yiwen and so if you look at S80, for example, you will be able to you see one of the letters here is talking about how let I'm Smart App Store let I'm Smart App Store COVID-19 records offline. So you can read that letter to get a sense of how other students work on this project. I mean, at this stage, I hope you can do a little bit of exploration. I mean, I can obviously give you more instructions and I can give you more directions in terms of how to do it, but it will be more kind of enlightening and educational if you try to figure it out and at least try it. Okay, so let me know, you know, what you have found, and in terms of ideas, I think it will be very helpful. But for the team, do you have some basic knowledge about I Am Smart?
Basic knowledge about I'm Smart. However, in Week 2, I have seen some information about different topics. I think this topic is close to my major.
Okay. Now here's the deal. Let me give you a little bit very basic information about I'm Smart. So imagine you have to log into a website, right? So like let's say you want to log into HSBC, which is a bank, or you want to log into eHealth or any other government services. Usually you have to remember your login name and password, right? You see what I mean? So you need to have your own login name and password. You have to register. But if you have I'm Smart, if you use I'm Smart, if the website, HSBC or whatever government departments or bureau is using I'm Smart, then the whole process will be much easier, because all you have to do is just to open up your app, I'm Smart, you scan a QR code, and then immediately the system knows who you are, and you can log in. You see what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And in a way, it will become like a virtual Hong Kong ID card. Okay, but the problem is not every organization or even department is using it. Okay, so one question you have to ask is, how come some of the organizations or department is not using it, right? So that's why we're talking about promotion. Okay, but that would involve other departments or bureaus. So another important question you have to ask is you can do some very basic assessment. For example, how many people are using it, right? Because we don't know that information. You can look it up. You can see if there's any information there. But my guess is maybe 2 million or even less, 1 million. You see what I mean? So the goal here is we want to figure out a way that the government can do a better job so that more services will be available for the app. Yes, because the ultimate goal is to replace the Hong Kong ID card with I'm Smart. You see what I mean? Okay, so maybe you can do a little bit more reading. I already give you kind of the direction here is that we want to look at how the app can be improved so that more people can use it. Okay, and take a look at HA Go. HA Go is the app by Hospital Authority. So Hospital Authority is not supporting I'm Smart. So maybe you can ask Hospital Authority why it does not support I'm Smart. But then you can go back to ask the OGCIO, how come you are not pressuring Hospital Authority to use I'm Smart? You see what I mean? So yeah.
So how the hospital affect mobile?
Well, the funny thing about HA Go, which is an app of the Hospital Authority, is that it's not completely disconnected with I'm Smart. You can use I'm Smart to register for HA Go, but you cannot use it to log in. You see what I mean? Let me talk with you a bit later about the HA Go case. But some of the basic question you can ask is how many people are using it, right? So you can assess how popular this app is. Okay. And another thing you should do is install it on your own phone. Because actually there are two versions of I'm Smart. One is you can just install it right away. The other, you have to go somewhere to verify. So that's called I'm Smart Plus. Okay, so another interesting question you can ask is how many people have signed up for I'm Smart, and then how many people have signed up for I'm Smart Plus? You see what I mean? Two different versions of the app. Of course, there's some enhanced functions, right? But then if you can figure out how many people are using I'm Smart and how many people are using I'm Smart Plus, then you can start saying, oh, okay, I'm Smart Plus is not popular enough. So you can start criticizing and say, hey, the government needs to do more to promote I'm Smart Plus. You see what I mean? So that's one question you can ask. There are many other questions. Because you see, the government has a vision for I'm Smart is to let everybody using it. So that's the vision. Our vision is everybody in Hong Kong will using I'm Smart. And then every organization, public or private, will start using it. We are still very far away from that vision. So your team's job is to figure out how the government can going forward towards that goal. And you are both computer science majors. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, then come back to me with more questions. You can also add questions to your notes here. Okay, start writing some notes. Okay, find some documents. The next group I want to discuss with is hostel scheme. Xinyu, have you got any okay, so you probably need to, well, I will share the Zoom recording. So you guys, she can watch the recording, but that's not the reason why you don't come to class, okay? You still have to come to class. But have you found anything?
I search the hospital scheme in Google and find some articles about the policy.
Could you take some notes here?
I haven't.
Yeah, please go ahead. You know, whatever document you have found, you should put it under you should put it under here, okay? So yeah, so any document. Well, for hostel scheme, just give you a little bit background. The scheme was not very popular. Well, actually the scheme was quite popular, but the scale is very small. So one thing you may have to figure out is how come only such a small number of units became available in the past, right? But I think that their approach is trying to convince the hotels to convert the rooms into hostel. So you might have to go back to the original plan. For example, go back to the Legislative Council website and see if there's any proposal for the scheme and see what's the original funding request and also what's the original plan. Like what's the target? Because most likely they fail to reach that target.
Yes, I found some people say that
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good starting point, okay? Because if the government failed in the past in this project, how can we guarantee or how can we make sure that they're not going to fail again? Because now they try to expand the project, right? As part of this youth development blueprint. So there are a lot of questions you can ask, all right? But starting with the documents you find and some basic research, and then we can approach the government. Another thing to find out is which government department is responsible for it. Okay. Do let me know if you have other questions. All right, and then we move on to open data group 1. Jiaming and Peter, can you tell me a little bit about your progress? Anything you have found? Yeah, so I think for your team, the starting point should obviously be look at an application. Okay, now actually there are two options. We've got open data group 1 and then group 2, right? And then group 3 is from Friday. So for these two groups, let me propose there are two options. Okay, the first option is to look at one of the community applications. Okay, and if you find any community application that you think is interesting and relevant, then you can look into that. Once you identify that application, the next step is to figure out which government department and bureau is providing the data for that application. Okay, and once you know the department or bureau that provide the information for that application, then you should write to them and ask exactly what data is being used. Okay, and then you can start asking questions like, how good is the data? How good is the data? The quality of the data in terms of frequency, in terms of the variety of the data available, in terms of the size, amount of data available. Okay, so the question is, if the government is doing a better job offering the data, would the application become more useful and powerful and popular? Does it make sense? So let me put some notes here. Okay, this would be for the data, open data group. Begin with an application. Okay, and then identify the government departments, bureaus that supply the data. Find out what data is being used by the application and how. Then ask how the government can enhance the data provision to improve the application. Contact the app developers for ideas as well. Okay, so this is one option. Obviously, you can pick one application and then go from there. Another option is to begin with a government department or bureau. So maybe if you look at all the applications, none of them was very interesting to you. So maybe say, I'm not going to start with an application. I just want to start with the government department or bureau. That's also fine. Okay. Then what you should do is to review its annual open data plan, because every department and bureau of the government has got an annual open data plan. And to be honest, that's not really a plan. It's not a plan. It's just a list of items. So it's a list of data items. And then you can contact the government staff and find out which team is responsible for open data. Okay. Now, to do that, you have to go to the government telephone directory, and that's a very useful tool. Everybody please pay attention here, because government telephone directory is very, very, very useful. Now let's take Education Bureau as an example. You know, I deal with Education Bureau all the time. Peter. And also Yiwen, right? Jiaming, right? So now, if you look at the Education Bureau's page, you can see that there's a hierarchy here. Okay, there's a hierarchy here. So you see there are many different branches. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Now, if you want to assess a government department or bureau's open data plan, the first question you have to ask is who within this structure is responsible for open data plan. Does it make sense? Because the person who is responsible for the open data plan, the team he or she belongs to, and also the level, the seniority of that person would say a lot about how important open data plan is for the bureau. You see what I mean? For example, if there's if somebody in the senior management team is responsible for the open data plan, then that means this bureau is actually taking it very seriously. Okay. And then you can start asking questions like, how come there's only so little data being released, right? You can start looking at the open data plans of the bureau every year in the past 5 years. You see what I mean? And you can start basically doing an assessment of the open data plan of that particular government bureau, like education bureau. Okay. So that's another option. Okay. So there are actually 2 different ways to do it. Okay. Assess the open data plans of this department or bureaus. And you can also propose some cases, in which the community can benefit from more open data from the government. Okay, so I would say these are the two kind of options here. So I will go ahead and put it to the 2 team. Okay. So we've got one team is open data group 1. I put some data here, some info here. And then open data group 2, again, some okay, good. Okay. Question. So open data group 2, Grace, Arisa and Hui Ling, have you got any ideas or something you want to discuss?
So, there's the app, which is called
Okay. Right.
Information that is
Right. Yeah.
How we can contact them, so we're planning to reach out to maybe their CS or maybe their
Okay.
PR people to see
Yeah,
how
definitely.
how much information they can give to us.
Yeah, sure. That will be very helpful. But keep in mind that if you approach a like an app developer, there's no guarantee that they will write back. They could ignore your messages, right? So but it doesn't hurt to try, just to be prepared that there may be no response. But definitely do more research into this app. But I would say, even though the app developers may not respond to your inquiries, you can always ask the OGCIO and ask them what data is being used by this app developer. And I'm pretty sure that they should be able to provide some information. And then the next question would be, once you evaluate the app, there must be some strengths, but then also weaknesses, right? So imagine you are the consulting firm hired by the company, and you try to propose certain ways this app can be further developed or whatever. And then that's where you are trying to figure things out, and then you can start asking the government, is it possible for you to provide another set of data? If yes, then can you do it? If not, then why not? You see what I mean? So think of any of this project like a case study.
Data from page one and saying that they have like this kind of open data can create huge economic benefits.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we can like go from the economic perspective.
Which
It's something online.
yeah, just put whatever you found in your page, and also the question, so we can take a look. Now another thing you can do is go to Google Scholar and search for some literature. And this is a piece of advice for what the hell? No, I'm not. Are you kidding me? I try. I got this before, but not very often. You know, I'm an honest user of the internet. Let's try a different. Yeah, just use Google Scholar, or you can even use like the library database. And then just search for like open data, government, something like that. And then you will be able to find some, not like this one is a little bit too old, like 2012. So you can try something a bit more recent, right? And just to get some ideas in terms of maybe in some other countries, the open data from the government has been used in a more sophisticated ways. Because obviously you can see with so many government department bureaus in Hong Kong offering open data, we still have only like 30 some applications. So it's not a very good scenario. Oh, another thing you can do is to take a quick look at a recent letter published by my students. I don't think I have updated the database yet, but you can see S121, which is the a letter on open data, but it's about the museum. So that might give you some idea as well. So what the Hong Kong's museum can learn from Taiwan's. So this could be a good kind of a model for you. Okay. So I will put yeah. So take a look at this letter. Right? Do you have any other questions? Okay, so please do take more notes so I can look at and any questions you may have, you can just you can add some comments to your notes. Try not to use the red color. Okay. Right, so let's move on. The next group I will invite is Museum Group 1, Katie and Tim. Oh, by the way, Tim, do you mind if you change your Notion name, like with your full name or what, at least your last name? So yeah, because that might be easier. All right, so for Museum Group 1, could you give me an update on what you have done? Any questions or any notes you have taken? Are you museum group 1? Right. So it seems like I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. Can you start taking notes here, which is under like week 2 to 3? Where are you taking your notes?
Sending our research in our WhatsApp group.
Right. Yeah, WhatsApp group is fine, but it would be helpful if you start taking notes here, because then I can look at your notes. You see what I mean? Okay, so please do update here, and then I will come back to your page a bit later. Okay. Now, I would say for your group, the edutainment is a project that the government, which is the Leisure and Culture Affair Department, right? So one thing you could do is try and see if you can get any document from the Legislative Council website on edutainment. Like, you see, actually, there's quite a number of documents here. So, for example, this one. So this will be a document that mentioned the edutainment. So see what information you can get, right? Because like a project like this might get some funding from the government, from it has to be approved by the Legislative Council, and then in the document you might be able to find some information about like what's the original idea, what's the purpose of doing it, and is there any way to assess the effectiveness, right? And another possible question you can ask is in terms of popularity, in terms of how many downloads or how many clicks this video's got. Probably not downloads, more like clicks. But this data may not be available. There's the YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you might be able to see like how many likes they get, but then you don't necessarily see how many views. But you can request that information. So some of the channels, maybe only the videos only got like a couple hundred views or something. That clearly suggests, it's not being used very effectively. And then you can start asking more questions. And another possible issue to raise is to what extent this materials can be reused by the community in terms of copyright, because obviously the government holds the copyright. But then given that it's funded by taxpayers, the department should have a more liberal copyright policy, right? So that could be another issue to discuss. Because if these videos are actually copyright free, or at least allow people to use it for educational purposes, then there will be other opportunities, right? So you can start thinking, hey, how about we develop a new project and we can reuse this materials to maybe use it for educational purposes. We can develop some materials out of that. You see what I mean? So that might be another way, but definitely look at the Legislative Council website first. Okay, so I don't know about this one. So you see that there's a whole section on edutainment channel. Rather, edutainment channel, a one-stop online learning platform to enhance the online resources center. It offers information, blah, blah, blah. contents will be updated every Friday to keep members abreast of the latest development in arts, culture, and recreation and sports. There's the 6 categories. Okay, so obviously one question you can ask is to collect the number of views for each channel. And then maybe even like for a list of videos from each channel and then number of views. So you can see some pattern, maybe some channels are more popular than others. Along with information like how long is the video. Maybe you will notice that actually shorter videos are more popular. Then that could be a suggestion or advice for the government. You start rolling out more shorter videos, right? So think of yourself as a consultant, that you can help the department to improve the channel. You see what I mean? But I think there's another team also working on this. So at some point, maybe you can exchange some ideas and try to avoid overlapping. Try to take different approaches to this project. Okay. All right. So the last team that I will discuss with is climate and big beef consumption. Okay. Now, yeah, please go ahead and give me an update on what you have found.
So far, we decided to, at least for this week, we're doing research divide our research into a few areas, like firstly the cost component, financially the cost component, environmental, and also the consumption trends, then also compared to the current environment policy for food, the environment for food policy. And so far we found that we looked a bit at compounds climate plan 2050 and then
Right.
and there's not really any mention of the food center other than from the waste, but there's no mention of the food center itself. Problem because almost all of the family is food is one of the biggest increases.
Okay.
And it was
Have you found any documents so far?
we sent some on the website.
Yeah. Well, it would be good. I noticed you invited me to the WhatsApp group, but please do put all the documents here as well in Notion so I can take a look. Now, I think for this project, there are a couple of different area to look at. One is carbon calculator. Right. Actually, I've got 4 students in the past who published 4 letters on carbon calculator. So do take a look at those letters. You can find it here, and as well as in the database. If you cannot find those letters, you can just search carbon calculator SCMP or something like that. There are 4 letters there. Another issue to look at is plant-based meat. Again, I've got 2 letters published on this topic as well. And one of the argument is that if we switch to a diet that's more like plant-based, artificial meat, then it can save the environment. It's also very good for public health, because meat and beef consumption would, leads to a lot of chronic conditions, hypertension, blah, 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 obesity, you see what I mean? So in a way, when you talk about this kind of consumption issue, it's not just about the environment, it's also about public health. But the challenge of this project is how can you identify a specific government program, right? So you need to look at, you can look at the environmental protection department and environment bureau to look at some of their programs, and maybe the messages about reducing consumption of beef and pork is not being amplified. So that could be one argument. So you can say, okay, the government needs to send out a stronger message about this kind of issue. Of course, the most powerful message is through taxation, right? So you can start building a case for maybe taxes on meat consumption, and look at some other countries as well. Look at literature, academic literature on that.
Searching like certain data on the website.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then Thur is not, I mean, we can't use the URL.
What do you mean?
I said that, but it showed us wouldn't find a PDF.
Well, if it's a PDF, you can still embed it. You know, you can embed a PDF to the page. What's your concern here?
Can't even download it.
You cannot download. Can you put the link somewhere here and I can take a look? Okay, let's take another break for maybe 5 minutes.
Just put it there, yeah, that one.
Okay.
See if you can.